Chapter 3. How to scale a modern law practice. To scale your law practice, you first must look at how you manage and handle clients and their cases. You need to have an optimized case management system where any stage of client management can be automated. Whether you're looking to purchase a case management system or you have one in use already, you need to answer a few questions. Is it the right case management software for your practice areas? Is it configured and operating properly? Is it set up for process automation? Is your staff trained to use the system properly? Are you able to get timely reports that help you make management decisions? Can you integrate other needed technologies into your case management system? Other needed technologies such as communication systems, lead management, referral systems, document collections, calendaring, reminders, and so on. A critical item in case management that managing attorneys often overlook and mismanage is caseload per staff. In most law firms, we see the extreme in which employees either have too few cases or are overwhelmed with an abundance of cases that they cannot manage. The right case management system allows you to manage this through what is called load balancing. It ensures that everyone has an adequate load of work or cases. Leveraging your staff. Finding professional, result-oriented staff is a hard enough challenge. But if you have enough employees and don't leverage them appropriately, your staffing problem doesn't disappear. What makes good staff? Now, beauty is in the eye of the beholder, but from my perspective, professional, results-oriented staff are the ones that are both qualified and educated on their role in the company. They are properly trained in their specific role. Please note that a qualified employee is not always one with a degree. Many individuals can simply read a book, pass a test, and get some sort of certificate. Employees need to have the right chemistry to fit within the firm. Every practice has a culture that comes from the founder and the people who were there first. When bringing new employees into a firm, the chemistry and the culture must fit. Otherwise, you can acquire the most qualified person on the market, yet they won't last more than a month in the firm because there is no cultural fit. Leveraging your staff means finding the best match, not just for the job, but for the practice itself. If a managing attorney is very hands-on and micromanages, new employees must fit within that environment. Similarly, an employee who wants a lot of direction won't fit well with a firm where managers are completely hands-off and expect their staff to be autonomous and self-directed. Suppose you have two licensed attorneys that come from the same school with the same degree. One will fit well within the first culture, the other won't, and vice versa. This cultural fit is not limited to the attorneys, but also to receptionists, case managers, and paralegals. Everyone must match the practice culture. An example scenario: a very ambitious applicant applies for a basic job in a law firm but wants to become a senior paralegal in 2 years. She gets hired as a receptionist, and despite all their hard work, they will never grow and will remain answering phones for 3 years after they started, leading them to be miserable. Whereas that same person in a different firm, 1 year later can be the best paralegal the firm has ever had. Leveraging your staff is also about knowing who they are, what motivates them, and their life goals. All of this allows you to direct them and put them on the right track inside your organization for a long-term win-win experience. When I interview applicants, I always ask them what their long-term goals are. I ask them to disregard the job and to tell me personally where they want to be 3 years from now. It's a standard question, but if the candidate has no prepared answer, it can be an important insight that should not be overlooked. Sometimes candidates apply for an interview for a specific job, but I may place them in a different position after the interview because I don't want them to have to just have a job. I want them to have a career. According to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, we also notice that every staff member is capable and has the desire to get to the self-actualization phase once their basic growth needs are met. In a law firm, solely paying a salary and providing benefits is not going to be enough. Career growth structure needs to be pre-planned along with the implementation of incentive programs for staff at every level. This is necessary to help every individual experience their growth, and ultimately this will result in the law practice's growth. Once I hire them, I want them to stay around, and one of the key strategies is to provide them with continuous training. Investing in your staff should be at the top of your priority list, because by investing in your staff, you're also investing in your firm. The more you develop your staff, the more value you get out of them. It's important to never ignore their training needs as you evolve. Create a career growth path for them through continuous education and certificate programs. Listening to your staff is a key element of this investment. Listen to what they have to say and keep an open line of communication for them to tell you what is going well and what isn't. When they have suggestions and ideas, let them be implemented. Shooting down these ideas kills innovation within the firm. However, letting people implement their ideas will make them more invested in the outcome of the firm and ultimately its success. Employees should be incentivized whenever the firm is incentivized. When the owner or the managing attorney is incentivized, employees should also be incentivized because they hold a share in the practice. All employees should benefit from the outcome of a case, from the person who first talked to the client to the attorney who wins the trial. So the outcome needs to be visible and shared with everyone, irrespective of their role within the practice. For example, if the attorney gets a $10,000 bonus for settling the case, the receptionist should also receive a financial bonus. Owners should not take for granted that the receptionist is doing their job answering calls and managing the client while the attorney is trialing the case. It's unfair that the winning attorney gets incentivized for making a big win, but the receptionist gets nothing. Incentivizing individuals when the firm succeeds also helps with team building. When a firm meets set objectives, usually financial ones, everybody gets a bonus. It sets a common objective for everyone, and they are incentivized to make the firm more successful so they can make more money too. If some employees see that every year they get a 3% or 5% raise, while the person they're working with is getting a 10x raise, it will lead to resentment. I'm not saying that if one person gets a $25,000 bonus, everyone should get that same bonus. The bonus aligns with their respective roles in different divisions within the firm. Everybody understands that the higher positions who work on cases and have a direct impact on the settlements will get larger bonuses. The attorney makes more than the case manager, who makes more than the receptionist, but at least everybody shares in the firm's successes. If one person makes all the money and everyone else gets nothing, it doesn't work. One of the primary drivers for incentivizing is to reduce or eliminate turnover. And the incentives are motivation to help everyone in the firm succeed. When one person succeeds, everybody succeeds and gets a reward. Optimize workflow processes. An optimized workflow process means that every step that can be automated is automated. It starts with getting that initial retainer signed all the way to disbursement of settlement. Each step is clearly defined and has a performance metric to create optimal outcomes. The performance metrics include all the checks and balances and possible what-if scenarios. One typical example where process optimization yields benefits is the number of people touching a case, essentially when dealing directly with the client. In many situations, a lot of redundancy could be eliminated to streamline the process. It increases the outcomes and the value of the case while speeding up the process from sign-up to disbursement. Lead generation and leads conversion. There are traditional ways of generating cases. The first is word-of-mouth referrals. That's often how attorneys begin their practice. After a while, this source dries up and they look at doing basic advertising. Most of it is unproductive because it's not well thought out. They also don't have a consistent budget for advertising. Many attorneys who still rely on traditional marketing put up a billboard and expect to get a substantial number of cases after a few weeks. It doesn't work like that. Similarly, law firms can't just throw $5,000 into online advertising and expect to receive 100 retained cases. When they don't get the results they expect, it really turns them off and they decide not to advertise again, or they switch to another agency or marketing area. They see it as a waste of money that doesn't work, but after a while, they become desperate and try again. Except that this time, they put in $10,000 or $20,000 and still yield the same results. Or even worse, they get lucky and get a huge case, being led to believe that it was because they spent more, when in reality it was coincidence. While that's the trend in many legal firms, there is a systematic road to generating and retaining clients. It's multifaceted. It's not just doing one thing. It's considering and implementing many factors to get the best result. Remarketing strategy for consistent referrals from past clients. One way, as mentioned, is to systematically get referrals from previous clients. To accomplish this, firms must remain in continuous contact with old clients and leads. They can do this by remarketing plans through newsletters and SMS broadcasts for holiday greetings, case anniversaries, birth dates, and so on. Organic leads by online presence management. Another hidden opportunity to organically generate cases is through your structured online presence. Once again, it's not about doing a single activity. It's a combination of marketing vehicles such as updating the website and Google My Business profile, SEO on web pages, and consistent social media professional activities. When it comes to social media, you need to determine when it makes sense to invest in branding for your firm. While Facebook and Instagram may be the most popular platforms, you should also look at others such as LinkedIn, YouTube, TikTok, and so on. In today's day and age and for the foreseeable future, you can't ignore social media. By properly utilizing social media, you are doing something that was near impossible a couple decades ago: low-cost, effective marketing. With only one viral post, a law firm can skyrocket in popularity at little to no cost, bringing in clients of all calibers. Lead generation and advertising companies. In addition to utilizing social media to expand your law practice, you can also leverage lead generation companies and maximize your purchases of PPC and PPL leads. Now, this process can be very tricky because it requires not only a consistent budget, but you also have to have patience and wait for your leads to materialize. In addition to consistency and patience, it is essential that your law firm builds an internal infrastructure to handle and convert the leads in a timely fashion. The typical conversion rate from buying leads can be 6% to 7%, but to secure these 6 or 7 solid leads, you first need to go through 93 awful ones. This is where most law firms fail and where I've seen the least amount of patience. Most law firms don't like to play the waiting game and are quick to dismiss a lead source if they're not meeting their extremely high expectations. I think of it like this. If you were certain that going through 100 leads would yield at minimum one 7-figure case, how quickly would you go through those leads to find that one singular case? The answer is unanimous. You would go through them very fast and very efficiently. Most law firms are not patient enough and are too quick to move on to the next big thing before truly maximizing what they have in front of them. When attorneys buy leads, they expect a certain number of cases and think that those cases are going to be the difference maker in the firm. When in reality, if you don't have the necessary intake tools set up, trained intake specialists, or a team to do proper follow-ups, even 10 7-figure cases won't put your name on the map. Accomplishing successful lead conversions requires up-to-date technological and financial tools and proper internal structure. Most of the time, lead generation companies get blamed for the poor quality of leads. More than half of the time, the blame lies with the law firm's poor intake department that is ill-prepared to do the required work to secure cases. Referral network. Last but not least, one of the most overlooked yet lucrative ways of increasing case generation is by strengthening your relationships with your current referral sources. Many companies don't cultivate these relationships, and they end up missing out on potential cases that they could acquire at virtually no initial cost. Here is a scenario to better understand what strengthening your relationships means. Imagine you have a friend who decides that every time your birthday comes around, they will gift you a watch valued at $10,000 or greater. How would you view this person, and how strong do you think your relationship must be for them to casually give you such an expensive gift on your birthday? The answer is, you'd view this person very favorably, and you would assume that your relationship is very strong and one of a kind. I mean, how often are you getting a gift valued at $10,000? Rarely. In almost all cases, you would assume that you are closer to this person than even your family because of how generous they are just once a year. This is the case for referral sources. When another lawyer or law firm decides to give you a case, there is a high chance it's valued in the thousands, yet most law firms don't show the appreciation necessary for such a high-valued gift. Many owners of legal practices take these referrals as if they are entitled to them or as if they expect such favors, gifts, when in reality, case referrals in many practice areas are equivalent to a gift worth thousands of dollars, one in which you would show immense appreciation and gratitude from under different circumstances. Often when someone provides a referral, the firm owner thanks them briefly, takes the case, and moves on. Instead, they should imagine that these referrals are equivalent to a friend giving you $1,000 gift and show gratitude accordingly. This is the key to scaling your law practice and building relationships that will inadvertently grow your practice and enhance peer relationships. How to increase net fees per case if you bill on contingency. To increase fees, especially in cases like employment, personal injury, workers' comp, you need to work on these cases like each one is the only one that your law firm is currently handling. Remember, you can't just sit around and expect the value of these cases to increase while you're not putting in the work on your end. Given that these are contingency cases, you need to work with the client and service providers day in and day out to build the value of any given case. Many firms leave the handling of cases in excess of $50,000 or $100,000 to an inexperienced case manager, or even worse, the client themselves, and then wonder why they can't scale and grow their practice. These cases require an incredible amount of attention to detail, and specifically double and triple checking all collected documentation, completed analysis of treatment schedule and visits if applicable, and everything in between. When you pay very close attention to the progress made on those cases and you figure out the formula of what works and doesn't, you can double or triple the value of the case and your law firm can reap the benefits. Therefore, it is essential to have case reviews in place to ensure your staff is building the value of a case and not undermining its potential. Don't assume it's happening on its own, because it isn't. How to reduce the time from sign-up to settlement. Decreasing the time between sign-up and settlement starts with very tight tracking of cases, utilizing an automated case management system, or knowing how to do it manually if necessary. Each part of the process must get properly dated and tracked to monitor progress, or else you end up running in circles around yourself. Being able to date and age everything allows you to determine when a case needs to go into demand and settlement. Some things to consider. How long does it take to start treatment after sign-up? At what point is treatment no longer valuable? Insurance carriers often cap the number of visits. So continuous treatment that is no longer billed just delays settlements while not improving case results. I've seen situations where clients have stopped treating a case and the case manager doesn't realize it until 3 months later. The case is parked and nobody's paying attention to it for months on end. This creates cash flow issues for firms dealing with contingencies and must be avoided at all costs. Constantly monitoring the client's process allows the law firm to streamline their law firm's operations, which in turn allows the law firm to build an internal structure suitable for expansion. When the client stops receiving treatment, you must be notified immediately so you can move forward to the next stage of their case without being in limbo. A properly set up case management software can send automatic notifications when clients stop receiving treatment, as well as send out demands when there has been a prolonged period of no communication.